Welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Soebbing. You're in the middle of our free motion quilting tutorial series. We are doing a free motion 101. So if you've wanted to learn to increase or improve your free motion quilting game or just start from scratch, you're in the right place. Last week we worked on our stipple meander and showed you 3 different ways to do it so that way it will look fabulous every time and really enhance your quilts. This week we're working on the loopy meander. Yesterday we used a full line stencil to mark this design on our Quilt as you go square, or you can also do it on your long arm and mark it on a completed quilt top to build our muscle memory so we know how to work with this stitch. Today we're going to be working on changing the scale of this so you can take the same design and have it look completely different depending on how you apply it. So we did this in our stipple meander as well. So I've already done this because we've already shown it on video. So go back and watch the changing scale of stipple meander if you need to see this. But basically I just marked and then stitched down so that I've got some triangles here to work with. We're going to do a small scale meander or loopy meander out here and a larger scale one in the center. Get your dry erase boards or your scratch paper ready. We're always going to practice first, so we can get that muscle memory down, get used to working with that scale changes, and learn how to work around our quilt so that we don't quilt ourselves into a corner. All right, I'm going to start out up here. My goal here really is to be kind of tiny as I'm working my way around. I want to make sure that I'm smaller than where I was at before. And maybe I want to come down a little bit and work my way up. And really, whenever I do this, I kind of alternate the directions I'm going. So if I'm coming in, that was counterclockwise, this one's clockwise, and you're just going to keep alternating between clockwise and counterclockwise as you're working your way around. And it creates a really fun loopy stitch. It's really a really fun one to do. All right, so when we get to the center, we're going to do it nice and big. Now this is when it is fun and you can cover some ground quickly. I wouldn't really do much bigger than this because any bigger than that and you're really just leaving too much open, and depending on what batting you're using, it can actually start to shift over time. So this is about as big a scale as I would go. All right, now we're going to fill in this side, and again we want to make sure that we are matching the scale of the side before. I probably won't do it this small when I'm doing it on the actual quilt because this is very tiny. This is hard to maintain, especially if you're doing it over a big quilt. Once I decided I was going to do pebbles in the entire background of this quilt, oh my God, it looked gorgeous, but it took forever. So if you're committing to something this small, be aware that it's going to take you a long time to get there. All right, so practice this as much as you need to until you feel like you kind of have it down, and then go ahead and go on to the actual quilt itself. I will tell you, I'm a better quilter than I am drawer, so usually, especially with these tiny little ones, they end up looking a lot better when I actually quilt it out. So don't get too concerned if it looks a little, crazy when you're sketching it out. All right, we're starting up in the corner as usual. We're going to pull that bobbin thread to the top so it doesn't create a thread nest down there below. All right, I'm setting my rhythm, and then I'm going to set my scale. Whenever I'm doing smaller stuff like this, I find it's a little easier if I can kind of go at a little bit faster pace to keep it nice and steady. All right, I messed with my tension there, and I'm getting some really funny looking loops, so I got to go way back up there. All right, continue on. That's looking better. All right, I did it. I went smaller than I probably should have. It's gonna definitely take longer to fill this in, but it's gonna be cute. All right, I think I'm going to just mix it up so that way I'm not going back and forth constantly. I'm going to fill in a little bit coming down here, and I'm really close to that edge. I really want to kind of make sure that I'm leaving myself a little bit more room as I work around here. All right, I'm going to work my way back up for a little bit, I think. stitches are getting a little big, so I think I need to slow down the speed I'm moving the quilt here. We're also going to work down for a little bit too, and then fill in. So again, it just looks a little different. It doesn't look like we're a machine doing it. There's a human behind this. I'm getting a little too skinny to be able to go up and down as effectively at this point without quilting myself into a corner. So probably for the rest of this triangle, I am just going to be going side to side. I'm going to get one more little one in there, and then I'm just going to wiggle my way down. All right, time to change gears, maybe just stop for a second, because now we're gonna go for a bigger scale. And again, we want it to be a bigger scale than what we've already done so we can practice. So I wanna make sure I'm bigger than these. All right, that one was counterclockwise, so I'm going to move over to do one that's clockwise now. And then so I don't fill in the whole bottom altogether, I think I'm going to go up some for this next one. And changing directions. I don't want to get too far up because then it might be hard to make my way back down and fill in that point. So I think I'm just going to do kind of these two bottom rows at the same time. You can really travel kind of a long ways with your loopy loops, especially when you have nice big ones like this. All right, I kind of have a narrow path to get through there. So I'm gonna have to think about that, how I wanna make that work. I think I'm gonna need to go a little bit smaller here. And then I can loop through and then just do like this wild loop to kind of fill in. And then go straight into a nice big one here. I should have stopped and paused and moved my hands. Stitches are getting a little big. I was definitely losing some control there. You gotta pay attention to those things. You'll see a lot of times when I'm doing this, I'm kind of just like nudging my fingers over, and I can get away with that a lot of times. I'm kind of just working them up. But that also kind of opens you up to messing something up. So you kind of just gotta figure out your rhythm here. What works best for you. All right, it's getting a little more challenging to fill this in nice and evenly with these big ones as I get up closer. This might be the last one that I can truly do. Yeah, it definitely is. Just gonna have to wiggle my way up to that point. All right, nice little pausing point. Now we're gonna try to mimic the same size as this on the other side, just I'm working our way down the other side of the triangle. That one's a little big. It's kind of hard to go sometimes between the two different scales. fill in a little bit here, going down, and just to mix it up. So I'm not just going back and forth, you know, kind of going different directions a little bit here. Right, now I definitely have to make my way back up because I've got to get closer to that edge of that triangle and still be able to fill everything in nicely without quilting myself in anywhere. This is easier to do on the long arm because you have more visible space, or even just a quilting machine that has more visible space here. I think I've got about 9 inches from my needle to where the guts of the machine are. And that's enough space, but it's not a lot of space. So it makes it hard to just see where you're going sometimes. All right, I think that's the last loopy loop I'm going to get in, and we're just going to quilt to that corner. All right, you can see really easily how changing scale really impacts your final design. So this was our original all over design, and then here's our one where we did teeny tiny ones in the background and then a little bit bigger in the outside. And really, as I'm comparing the two, it's not that much bigger because I really can't go too much bigger than this with the limitations of working on my home sewing machine. I definitely can go bigger on the long arm with a lot more ease, but getting that nice smooth curve for me to go any larger than this is really hard to do when you're doing this as opposed to moving the machine instead of your fabric. So this block might look, you know, pretty different when we do it with the long arm version. We might be able to get bigger loops there. But still, it's really fun, and you can see how it really defines the block well. If this were an actual piece block, this would really pop forward, and this would be pushed down some and really turned into that background texture, especially if you're using coordinating thread instead of the white I'm using, so you guys can see really well at home. So really fun stuff, really cute. And next, we're going to show you guys how to modify this into a double loop meander, which adds even more whimsy, and it's super cute.